Because there's a trending the video we've all seen. Some guy is spraying, I think it's
some sort of powder or ash or
whatever it is, and I don't know. It sounds like mind games for me, like Kyle has mentioned.
So Koja is very right to term it a witchcraft derby.
We also know of a coach who never just allow any female official to go on a bus because for him he believes women have bad luck on a day like that.
Superstition. Kyle is the most religious of the three of us. Your take on this? If you are a footballer, would you think that would? Do you think that is something that would hinder your performance?
No, I don't think sorcery has anything to do with performance on the pitch. More like Branson prefers to say that these are mind games that everyone uses. I still think these are mind games, but unfortunately, in our setup, these are some of the things that have always gone on to coaches' minds, players' minds, the administration, and before you know, it denies them a chance to give even their best on days whereby they would have performed better.
Yeah, something is in your mind. Our very own Ismail Kionga has called it the witchcraft derby, meaning both teams, it's not one-sided, meaning both teams
are quite known for it.
Are guilty.
Are quite known for it. Actually, I think, about five or so years ago, they decided they wrote a wrong story about witchcraft. The incident that
wasn't Alexis Abidi at Bull a certain time, if I remember correct.
Yeah.
And Alexis Abidi, when I had a hustle at Vipers, when he was at Vipers when we were playing in the Champions League, he was in charge.
Yeah.
He used to walk on. Just before the game started. Yeah. With he was used to play Judith Babile's music very loud like was Christian faith, and someone told me that that's his style. Just trying to get in the moment. So 5 years ago, was he at Bull then, or it was someone else?
It wasn't. I don't think it was Isaudi at Bull at the time. I need to revisit that story. Obviously, before the one that got Kyle into trouble last year. So Koja is very right to term it a witchcraft derby. But I don't want to believe that it has a lot to do with performance.
With the result.
Especially. But obviously in the African setting where many people believe in it and it actually works, obviously even the biblical people know witchcraft actually works. Just that you can overpower it, I think. Edwin should tell us about that.
Coincidentally, footballers, when they are...
You can lose vision.
When they are making their
entrance. You can have a blood sight.
When they are making their entrance, normally everyone is making the sign of the cross. So you assume we are all on the same page. I don't know who is believing in the sorcery to spread it around, because there's a trending the video we've all seen. Some guy is spraying, I think it's
some sort of powder or ash
whatever it is, and I don't know. It sounds like mind games for me, like Kyle has mentioned.
You know, when it is done in plain sight of the opponents, you definitely know that's a mind game. Definitely, most definitely.
Yeah, I've seen. I saw a tweet from Clive Chazi as well, mentioning that in the final of the Under-17 tournament in Morocco against Mali,
yes.
One of the Mali officials was trying to do something,
yes.
Put something
in the
goal posts.
Yes.
He put it to put it right, and then cameras got him, and that's when he was asked to remove it and all that. But there was still a lot of pull and push. But you can imagine this is a tournament of Under-17 players. Surely, why would you be throwing them in such a deep end? So
another person would argue that you start praying when you're young.
No, but but this time around you're confusing them. So you're starting them way early, and these are players that you want.
You started you're contradicting yourself, Kai. You're saying you started them way early. When should they start?
No, this is something that should not start at all. That is what I'm trying to say. Because if these are young talents that we want to see shine in Europe and everywhere.
Is it the players who believe in that stuff as well, or is it like a team thing that we do this, or if maybe it's that particular official who believes they can do this?
If it happens somewhere, then it cuts across in the team. We've heard of stories whereby there was a coach around who never used to allow teams to eat fish on match day, and that is a story that is known by many people around football. We also know of a coach who never used to allow any female official to go on a bus because for him he believes women have bad luck on a day like that.
Superstition.
Yes. Then a moment. We've also heard of stories whereby people have to first get is it called black salt? Yes, people have to smear black salt before going into games, and these are things that are happening in the UPL, and we hear them because I can tell you recently we were with Bukenya, who is now currently at Wakiso. He had gone to Chitara in a transfer window, but he left Chitara because of things that he was not agreeing with. Lawrence Bukenya, and he clearly tells you. Same with the Umar Lutaro, who crossed to KCC.
Yeah.
Still, he says, I reached the team and things would happen and I'm not in agreement with them. So you can see that these are things that cut across to players as well. But at the end of the day, I will go back to what Brian Senyondo said. More so when he was the coach at Chitara, at a time where I happened to do a story about Sosari, he clearly put it right that for him, he thinks these are just mind games.
Mind games it is. Guys, hold your thoughts. Let me get this out of the way. But it's another of your favorite weekly episode of the weekly Wowos. Easter Monday, but we're here to cook for you, and I have the usual suspects: Edwin Kyle Kule, writer with Kawowo Sports, and our editor Mr. Franklin Kawero. We've been talking about something that made surprising things like that were happening on when Jesus is
rising.
When Jesus is rising, Easter Sunday, and we're speaking about something that happened in the Uganda Cup quarterfinal between Bull and Chitara, but we'll be talking about that a bit later on. Let me just go to the guys and pick their minds on what stood out for them last week. This time, let me start with Kyle.
Yeah. First of all, I'm glad to be here on a Monday. I didn't see it happen, but I had to be pulled from Ginger to make it here, and surely it's a good time. But for me, what made news for me and in the past week was the rumor of Mike Mutebi to have a chance of returning to KCC. On the day when KCC was losing to URA, there was a group of officials of the club that happened to come that day to witness their beating at Nachivovo.
Was it a beating? 1-0.
Yes, but you've lost.
You were beaten.
You've lost.
Okay.
Yes.
Beating is 5-0.
Those are like 3 games in a row.
No, that is losing.
Nicked. It's a better one.
Not really. Yeah, so after the game, they remained, I think, for around 35 minutes. In what was more of a talk concerning the team and what could be their future.
Was it the board members or the guys part of the management team now?
Part of the board members with a few administrators, more like Mr. Kadu as well as Anisha. They were in a certain room having a talk, and one of the media personnel that passed around overheard of the story of, or the name Mike Mutebi being talked about in some of the things that were going on. So we have been trying to follow up and know what could be the chances, or is it a real talk that we can jump on? But surely, at least a source close to the board has confirmed that this is a name that they've talked about. But surprisingly, when you hear the demands that the man has at the moment, you feel KCC are moving 2 steps in front and then moving 5 behind, because these are more less the demands that he had when he was leaving.
Yeah.
And
that's what was going to be my question, that have the things that he wanted then, is the board now willing to put them in place for them to be successful?
For me, I still think KCC are the people managing the club are the biggest reasons as to why the club has found themselves in such uncomfortable place. Because if you're letting go of a good coach in Abdallah Mobiru because you failed to support him, we are waiting to see whether the man can take over the job, or if they'll go for Dusan Stojanovic, another name that has been around the corner.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And if we know anything new, you most definitely find it on Kawowo Sports. Is Mike Mutebe returning to KCCA? He had a very successful spell with them before leaving in very unclear circumstances. But if we know something new, you most definitely find it on Kawowo Sports. Franklin, your starter for the week.
I had to wait until Sunday. Again, these stories of witchcraft really mashed me up to say the least. Like in 2025, people still believe that performance is based off what the other team does. Of course, being an African, knowing that it exists and all that, but man, that's not how you prepare for a game. But that was not even the most disturbing. The most disturbing was a player pushing a referee to the ground. That doesn't happen anywhere. And I just wait to see what FIFA is going really to do about that incident. The whole match, actually. Because
was it the whole match or just that incident?
There were very many incidents in the match.
The player in question, Okocha, I think he was even the captain. Looked like
Ochora.
It looked like he had the armband on.
But why didn't he receive a second booking? Because
actually he was supposed to be sent off directly.
He had.
Why did he? That's what you mean. Why
didn't he receive a second booking? That's what I'm saying. Because he had received one already in the first half, and this was even more. It looked more disturbing than the first incident that caused this.
I mean, sometimes even as a referee, one of your responsibilities is game management. He had just sent off one player, and then if you're going to issue another yellow card, then maybe you could cause it may spiral out of control. So you just manage the moment, and I'm sure Ochora will be dealt with by those that are responsible.
I don't think shoving a referee should even be negotiable, regardless of what stage of the game it is. You know, as a player, you can express your frustration in many ways, but you cannot push a referee like that.
Yeah, most certainly unacceptable for Mochola. I don't know. Anyway, when you play sport, the emotions of the game sometimes get the better of you.
No, and then sometimes, okay, I understand the referee had a bit of controversial calls in the game, but when you look at the red card, whereby Mwere was sent off, that was a hard tackle on, I think that was
I felt
Amako.
It was a bit harsh, okay?
No, it was not harsh at all.
The second one could have been...
No, but this is a tackle from behind.
You sort of give me a warning that, you know what, Kyle, if you do this again, it's a wrap.
You're seeing it from that point because it causes a red card.
Yeah.
But on any other day, that is a booking, at least for me. But earlier, he had sent off two players. That is Jerome Chira of Bull and then Titus Sematimba. So this was a second red card on the side of Bull. And when you look at the ambience, literally you could tell that the technical bench of Bull was already charged. And what Ochora did was just...
So by that moment, both teams had 10 men, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What Ochora did was just a clear picture of what everyone on the side of Bull was believing or they had in mind to do. Because at full time, we saw how security guys were struggling with the head coach of Bull, that is Abech Komeko, who literally wanted to jump on the referee. So surely this was a game that was of a very disturbing ambience, and we hope that FIFA come out early, because sometimes they take months, then you hear fines of 500,000 when we've forgotten everything and all of it. So I hope they can come out to explain, but also get their feet on ground, because these are incidents that we never want to see.
What if that
happening
powder,
again.
what if that powder that was spread on the pitch was to just infuriate bull players so they can get into?
Yeah, I think that's the incident there, right there, and I don't know what Ochora was doing. Even Chikomeko got on pitch himself, unacceptable. You can see Patrick Kadu there trying to make sure that everyone remains calm, but that's something is going to come up. That is what is some of the stuff is going to come up in our conversation later on. The Uganda Cup quarterfinals, the final game will be played today when Vipers host Villa.
Tomorrow.
But tomorrow.
There is a game today, but the final.
Oh yes, yeah, there's a game today. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking that for Villa Vipers is the most important one because you could decide so many things. But that Uganda Cup quarterfinal talk coming up a bit later. But that moment starting off for Franklin, a moment that has seen a lot of it's sort of taken away, in my opinion. I believe it has taken away the shine on that very brilliant goal scored by Kitara. Yeah. But that conversation will be coming up a bit later. Personally, my start of the week is really a story, something that Kyle spoke about last week, but he was speaking about the Wakiso zone, the schools in the Wakiso football competition. This time in the Bugisu area. I'm in a WhatsApp group called Wabomba Sports, and they talk about football. One of the most active sports groups by them on. I'm on so many, but that one really talks up. I can imagine the sort of conversation they have about only football in their region. But their schools qualifiers had an interesting twist. The teams that were supposed to meet in the final, both of them disqualified. And then the teams that met in one semi-final went on to play in the final. And Bugisu High playing Nabomali in the final before Bugisu High, of course, winning, and then will be one of the winners of that Bugisu region. But that story on Kawowo, written by David Isabidi in collaboration with Ronnie Salongo wa Bomba, just made it sort of very, very interesting, because I think the game was happening, then it was stopped in the 19th minute. They had to go for a disciplinary meeting and something like that. Then they ended up coming up with a decision of disqualifying both teams. And then the teams that had even lost in the semi-finals ended up playing in the final, and those two moving on. And it was a bit controversial, but in the end, it shows you the amount of competition in schools championships.
Amount of confusion.
I don't know whether it's confusion or competition.
No, but I don't know. But I think USSA and whoever runs these schools competitions they have to do better, because surely we should put an end to things like complaining. At least we should give a window to all people who have things to report or have complaints, to say, okay, if this date ends, we are not seeing anything like that. Because we were in Masaka, and a certain school kept coming back now and again. That is a school in Bukedea. Before you know, they are back. They are reporting their coach. Now they are reporting their player. Now they have a player's national ID. Now they have a parent's number. So at the end of the day, even the reporters get confused, because just imagine I'm doing a report on radio, and I just tell you, okay, Bukedea is now out. I come back in the evening and I'm telling you, yeah, they are back. Now the listener is saying, how are they coming back?
How are they coming
and because you have limited time, you cannot explain everything. Some of the incidents are even very confusing. That
I think, Kyle, you want to mean that, and I agree with you, there are a lot of boardroom decisions
surely
that actually affect the whole competition
than what's happening on the green.
Yeah.
Surely, at least USSA should say, if the tournament starts, no more reporting. If you lose, you go home. But the whole thing of, and surprisingly, it is the big schools that report.
Not so many schools are willing to give up on a loss. They always feel there's been an invisible hand in their loss.
Look, I always look at how students used to be assessed if they are fit to play for their schools back then, and they would actually more like sit an exam randomly. Bajja ne bakuuza aye ogambye okola combination ki nkola heg soko tunyonyole kino, and the moment you go blunt, clearly you're not a student. Okay, because that's as basic a question as what a senior 5 would know, or what a senior 3 student should know. And the moment you fail, the so-called dead body. Now, right now, you find schools with this kind of transfer that is happening. schools are getting in kids who are not even school going. Idea this tournament should be designed strictly for schools. But if at the point where you even have transfers in schools, transfers happening only during the football term, a lot has to be done in terms of fixing how this football tournament is really organized.
And Kyle is someone who closely follows the school's competition. Is it a case of the numbers are overwhelming? I'll give you an example where I come from cricket, that it's very rare for, let's say, Mwiri to try and use Franklin, who is from GGSS, just because we want to win the championship that year. You know that Franklin is in GGSS, Dennis is in Mwiri, Kyle is in Budo, period. And we shall meet at the ground, that's it.
But when you look at this schools tournament, it has even no big prize at the end of the day. But it's more about bragging rights. And it goes back to the owners of the schools, not even more about the kids. It just comes into the kids because of the talk that is behind the games, maybe with winning bonuses and stuff like that. So that's what brings the fight. But it's more about, my school has to go till the final. This school never loses in group stages. And that's why we find the pull and push. But when you look at talents, surely there is a lot of talent when it comes to football across the regions. Because back then you could look at one region as one that is very dominant. But last year we had a Moose coming all the way from Bukedia to come and beat the likes of Chitende, beat the likes of what? We saw a school in St. Julian, a new school, because it's a branch. Because the famous St. Julian is that of Gayaza.
Yeah.
But we saw the one of Seta come all the way to take the championship. We saw Amos taking the East African Championship after beating Chitende in the finals. So surely we've seen new schools emerge. But at the end of the day, this is a competition that should be looked at as a competition that nurtures talent. Surely the complaints are becoming too much.
But for school
and
going
at the end of the day, yes, but we have a school that has two players from Burundi, 3 players from Congo, and 1 from a country that I'm yet to know. So surely players are now even
the stakes are very high
now,
probably because of as well the CAF secondary schools competition, which
has some
we saw
serious
schools
money.
getting buses last week because they did well in that tournament. We've seen Kawempe Muslim, the girls schools, go and do well in, I think, Zanzibar, and they won some money. So probably the end, that is the end goal. This competition in Uganda is only means to that end.
No, but the other one is for the juniors, because currently it's for under 17 and then under 15. That is the one that has real money that is tangible, because of Patrick Musepe, the president of CAF, who has decided to fund that. Particularly his foundation is the one funding the tournament. But this one of USSA has no money, I can tell you. You just get your trophy, come back to wherever you've come from, and maybe wait for East Africa, or later on that can take you way back. But when you look at the what you put and what you have as return, surely the two are never equal.
I think it's really bragging rights.
It has to go back to really using proper students in these competitions. And if you claim that you really are aiming at developing sport in Uganda, I don't see why you should be heading out to Burundi, to Malawi, to South Sudan, or wherever, Congo, to bring guys to come and play here, when you actually have Ugandans and you have a tournament that is dominated by foreigners. You're in a way not developing sport, if I may put it that way. You actually, because at the end of it all, local clubs are not going to come and say, like, oh no, Wawa, okay. And if anything, the way school administrators and owners claim that we are supporting sport, you're actually not supporting sport. You are not supporting local sport.
I guess they will have to rethink. But for me, Bugisu High School, affiliated to Bugisu United, who play in the East African Regional League, currently second behind Amos in that championship. And I find that relationship very good, sort of maybe St. Mary's, Kitene and Vipers. hopefully the school team maybe can push the team in the league to go places. But I just found that very, very interesting of how things panned out in that region. But I would just ask Kyle just to mention from last week, how did the qualifiers in the Wakiso region conclude? Did Chitende the champions, or was there a surprise in the final?
No, there was no surprise, at least. But for me, I look at the crowd. It was crazy numbers at Waukesha. And this shows you how much people love school football. And
mostly the students from either school or even people from the community.
It was surely a mixture of villagers and students as well, because we saw when you look at students, okay, all teams want to have those voices of vuvuzelas in the stands that are going to be behind you, and surely Senua and Chitende had a few students on that day. Senua are taking on Chitende in the finals of basketball for girls, and surely Saint Noah humbled Chitende this time round. You cannot say it was even close. They humbled Chitende in a very easy game for them that day. It was very easy for them. We saw the stars that are on the national team, the Gazelles, coming on that day and showing that, okay, we are class apart, and that was an easy game. Then on the side of the boys, still Budo quite had a good run, and in the playoff game.
When you are talking sports, you are talking Budo.
Yes.
Okay.
In the playoff game, my former school still happened to take the third place in Maryland. No, this time Chitende in basketball, they give us the girls team. For boys, it's hands up. But at least Maryland managed to, so at least I had a team that I was rallying behind. Yeah, so when we come on to the side of boys, for football, Stahiza managed to take the third place, seeing off
is
Standard High, managing to see off Green Light, and Green Light are going into the Nationals tournament for the first time. I was invited.
Where is Green Light located?
It's around Nansana. I was invited for the party, but I didn't manage to go.
For Stahiza for Green Light?
For Green Light, because they were celebrating their first sport in the Nationals.
You see what happens when you work for Kawowo?
Yeah, when you work for Kawowo, people out there see you as Mr. Mr. Kule was invited. But because of a busy schedule, I didn't manage to get there. But surely, congratulations to everyone at Greenlight. So when we went into the finals, I think this is the easiest final Chitende has seen in the past days, because they were already up to a goal in the 12th minute. A goal scored by a man known as Bahati. I'm yet to know the second name, but he's a man that comes from Congo.
There you go. There you go.
Then the second goal was scored by Ago Santos, still a man that comes from South Sudan. When you look at his height, quite a good height, and he's going to be a name that is going to punish a few players here and there. Of course, currently, he has signed with a certain team in Malawi, but I think he's still completing his school duties before he goes on to play in that in that league. But we wish the best for him. But when you look at the Chitende side, coached by Coach Zungu, surely you feel this is a Chitende side that is playing some good football. We've already seen them for hooting the ball and then forcing a few goals, maybe because of their fitness. They run better and what. But this time around, you see they're trying to build plays. And surely, even when Mulindo was giving them the envelope on the following day, he clearly applauded the coaching staff for the style of play. At least that is something noticeable in what Zungu has added to this team.
All right, some pocket money for the boys from Kitende, who are champions of the Wakiso zone qualifiers, and I guarantee you that Kyle will bring you everything from the boys championship when it takes place in Ngora. It will be hosted by Ngora High and Bukedia. But
Yeah.
I think the football is mostly hosted by Ngora High. So make sure you keep it Kawowo Sports for you to get all those details.
The man was smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, but
After seeing the winning.
going away from the schools championship, guys, let's start with Vipers, 5 points ahead of NEC after that game on Friday evening. And mine won't be football before I come to you guys who are the experts. But that evening I was coming from Entebbe, and when you're on the express highway, and I think that you sort of see, Franklin has been to Rwanda. You know how the Kigali Conventional Center looks like at night.
Yep.
When you're on the express highway and you see how that St. Mary's Stadium looks like when they have a match. Whenever they don't have a match, the lights are on, but it's kawa. It's just like you don't want to be in darkness. Yeah. But when there's a game on and they put on all the lights, it looks so beautiful. And I was with someone and I told them, you know what, our UPL season, the top 2 teams are fighting out for the championships. Like, oh wow, that's interesting. It looks magnificent, and I think Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa needs to be very, very proud of himself. He's done a brilliant job with that football club, and for you to see that at that sort of distance, it looks very, very nice. And for me, I remember I was there when they were playing in the Champions League and they wanted to play their games in the evenings, and they were putting up the lights, and the amount of work that guys put into just get those lights together and have them look the way they look. Yeah. I remember they played the first game, and then people complained that the lights were very dim. And then next day was like, no guys, what do we need to do? You need to have a tower the other side. Let's buy that land and then put up the whole tower. So the sort of investment they've put in is very, very evident for anyone to see on that express highway. It was very, very beautiful for me to see. But to the football, I mean, 3-1 win looked very, very comfortable for Vipers. Does that, seal the deal that they have to just see through the remaining games, and they should surely be crowned champions of the UPL? Let me start with Franklin.
You want to start with the fact that I think Mbalangu did not actually overthought the game. I think he wanted, you put out a team that if it gets a result, like that was tactical nous. But if they are hammered, the questions are, what were you trying to do? And that is what actually remained. What was Mbalangu trying to get with that team? Especially knowing that he was going to the game at a time when Alan Okero was in fine form. Karim Watamba has had a very, very good season. Sentam is a live wire in big games. When you need him to deliver, he's always going to. And the way he set out his team, it was always going to be a hard task. Obviously, it was undone by his star player not being available for the game because of the card that he got in the previous encounter. But the way Mbalangu put out that team, it was up for the beating. I hadn't seen Gaddafi Wahab play in a while, but he was the one in the middle of the park. We've seen a next side that has been about working, like workaholics in the midfield especially. But you look at the time that Vipers midfield has had on the ball, and you wonder if this was a game that was determining if the title challenge is going to continue or not. I thought Mbalangu set up himself for the fall.
Yeah, Kyle, NEC have not been good travelers throughout the season. Do you think this is something that really came back to haunt them in this particular game? Hussein Mbalangu had been talking big throughout the week, but a 3-1 scoreline does not sound like you put up a big fight.
I'll start by saying I don't know why you said Frank has ever been to Rwanda. I've ever been to Rwanda as well.
Apologies.
But anyway, I'll take it for maybe a reminder. But surely, when you look at that game, just like Frank put it, I think Mbalangu undermined a bit Vipers. And this is when you see that that's why people say that has a team ever been in such a situation? Has a team ever been in a situation whereby they are chasing someone and then they find themselves playing that team? What do? How do they keep themselves in such a game? What is best to be done? Do you go for 1 point, or do you go all the way to fight for all points? I think in such a game, there was no reason as to why.
You'd say if NEC had won, they would have cut that margin to 2 points.
No, they would have gone ahead.
They would have gone ahead
Actually, they
by
would
a
have
point.
gone by a point.
But you want that to come.
So there was no point of playing for a draw, surely.
No, there was a point for playing for a draw at such a moment. Because you first got 1 point and then fight for 2.
That's a goal here from Hilary Mukundane from an Alan Okello assist
Yeah.
again.
And by the way, Mukundane was supposed to be given a bit of flowers in that game. Because when you look at the second game, at the second goal, he's the one who releases off Yunus before he sets up Alan Okello. So you believe he was just in the right state in that game. But I was saying that in such a game, you first fight for 1 point.
Yeah.
And then you first got 1 point, then fight for the 2.
Kyle,
More like
paints the perfect scenario for someone, for our viewers. What could have been, if what would have been the ideal situation for NEC to get out of this particular game?
what would have been the ideal situation is first give them respect, leave them with the ball, keep your shape, and then build into the game. Like, see what is not going right so that maybe you find a loophole here and there, but not going pound for pound. They are home. They have lost 2 points against Express, so they are going to be very angry. They are going to come out
Very
like
ruthless.
bees that are hunting for something. Because I normally love to remind our viewers that this is a team that was given 50 million for finishing on top of the league by the owner, Dr. Lawrence Mulindo. This is a team that has been promised 150 million if they go all the way to take the trophy. And this is a team that has been promised more 50 million on top of the 150, which makes it now 200. If they are declared champions before 3 games. So they have something to fight for that is just beyond the trophy. On that day, you saw that Mbalangu's full I prefer to call them fullbacks. They were always on the front.
But they're wing back. They played as wing backs.
And on that day, they more looked like wing backs. But they were always on the front. So they always left spaces behind them. And on days whereby you know that Alan Okello is going to stretch and Yunus will be stretching this side, they are going to punish you on such a day. And when they conceded that goal, they were so anxious to level it up there and then, which then helped Vipers to get a second goal very quickly, which I thought that after conceding that goal, you want to keep calm for a moment. You want to suck in the pressure so that you don't allow the momentum of Vipers to keep growing. And I think those few mistakes kept them out of balance. If you want to see a team that knows how to play Vipers, I hope our viewer out there can spare some time and watch the game that is going to be played between Vida and Vipers. If Vipers are to score today, they will surely work for that goal. And that's what happened when they were facing up in Wankurukuku. That each time, they always made sure that they send away Alan Okello very far away from their box because they are not giving him space. Each time he gets the ball, he's teamed up. He's double teamed up. And that's how you play against a team that is in full form like Vipers.
Yeah, Vipers are in form. Frankly, maybe finally on this, do you feel that this is enough for them to go on and win their 7th championship?
I would say yes, and that is bearing in mind that they still have to play Bull and Chitara, all on the road. But at this point, I thought it was important that if NEC are going to push the thing all the way, they needed that result, at least a draw from that game. But it is going to be very, very difficult for Vipers to give up a 5-point lead, despite the fact that they are playing Chitara and Bull away, who are probably the strongest of their remaining fixtures. And against this side, these sides that already have players who are definitely going to face some disciplinary action. It is all playing in
You already decided their fate. What sort of title running does NEC have?
It is still not it's not smooth as that, especially given that they are bad visitors. You don't expect NEC to go winning all their remaining games for sure.
Yeah, I think they like you guys have explained, probably their arrogance cost them what could have been a better result for them at the St. Mary's Stadium in Cotê.
Yeah, but Dennis, this title has not been given away yet. I'm one of the people who still think we still have a run to go, because these two teams, at least both of them are going to face Mbale Heroes. Both of them are going to face Bull as well as Bright Stars. Now, the beauty is that they're facing Mbale Heroes.
So the clubs have played 24 games, so you have
about six.
Yes, 6 games. 6 games to go. But
6 games were, yes.
yeah, what makes Vipers' remaining games look more harder than NEC is that in the last 3 games, they will be away to Bull and Chitara. They'll first go to Bull, then go to Hoima, and then end with Bright Stars. Yet on this side, I think NEC has Bright Stars, then Villa somewhere, as well as Bull. But when you look at the games that take you to the last 3, next games look a bit easier.
Yeah.
So if NEC manage to keep this 5 gap till the last 3, you feel they will be in a better position, because I don't think Vipers will win both games, Bull and Chitara. At least they have to.
You feel they will drop something in either of those two, in either of those.
Just like it happened against Express, they will have to fumble it somewhere. So that's why I think if NEC manage to keep that gap, the problem is NEC might drop more points. And
What
that way,
do you mean they might? They will definitely will.
because they are bad visitors. So if they drop more points, they will deny us a good finish. And surely UPL has always been decided on the last
2 years. You've had a title run in, even on the final day.
It's been a party. Trophies have been lifted in helicopters.
I'm sure Vipers won't want to push it to the end, but for a team that has really been the best in everything, statistics, this number of games lost, they have the top scorer in the league, Alan Okello. You feel that if numbers don't lie, Vipers should be the team to to be the champions this year.
Yeah, and you see, the reason why I think Edwin is saying that those 2 games are going to be hard for Vipers, Chirara and Bull, it's probably because he elected one of them to be a league champion.
He's trying
to back up his decision.
Not really. Surely, Vipers have not looked good when they go to Bull. At least I think for the last visits there, Vipers has, apart from the time when Watambala pulled off a late equalizer in the previous campaign, Watambala pulled off a late equalizer, I think in the final minute. But when we remember last time, Vipers went to Hoima twice. They lost in the Uganda Cup. That was quarter final, and then Vipers managed to pull off a hard fought win in that report that got me into trouble. But surely it has not always been an easy visit. And now that when you look at the games that they've played under Waswabosa, they've not yet lost at that ground. They've been dropping points here and there, but at least it's always been either win or draw. So it's not going to be easy for Vipers when they go down to Hoima. Yeah,
well, someday we'll get time and speak about the title running and talk about let's say sort of the 2 teams that are chasing for that title. For now, it seems like a 2-horse race team. But Vipers were on top of that table were by 5 points ahead of NEC. Neck to neck, the rest of the chasing pack I think has certainly dropped off. But NEC is still in with a chance in case Vipers will drop the ball. But for now, Vipers comfortably ahead by 5 points. 24 games for each of the teams, 6 more games to conclude the season. But like Carlos mentioned, they have some bogey teams to visit, both of them. But certainly we'll be here, and make sure you keep it Kawowo Sports to find out who will eventually be the champion of the Uganda Premier League. But leaving the Uganda Premier League alone, this Easter weekend has been full of the Uganda Cup, which is the other local competition for football clubs in Uganda. The winner of the Uganda Cup gets an opportunity of representing Uganda in the CAF Confederations Cup, and this is another opportunity for teams that may miss out on the Premier League to win something and also qualify onto the continent. KCCA managing to win 2-1 at Karokarunji. This is a game that we watched here at office, and first half very, very dry, and then in the second half a lot of rain. And even if you see, if you get, you will be able to watch that leveler from Karokarunji. The defender Mustafa Mujuzi slipping at the wrong minute, and the ball just sort of teeing it up for the striker to tap into goal. But Karokarunji visiting KCC and picking up a result. The first win for Jackson Magera, the interim coach. Satisfied, Kyle? Good enough performance from the team, especially considering that they were on the road. And a team that is used on playing on AstroTurf, they were playing on proper grass somewhere in Ntungamo.
Yeah, first of all, at least Magera.
That's a goal from Derek Nsebambi off, I think, Gavin Chizito corner.
Yes, first of all, Magera remembered that this is their team. This is a team that has to play. After taking the job...
What do you mean by this is the team that has to play?
After taking the job, there is a way he tinkered with the team. I think he wanted to prove a point that I'm now the man in charge, so I have to do a few things that the coach has not been doing. And somehow, his fingers got burnt, because in those two games, you found Magambo playing in the midfield. There was a bit of tinkering in the team, but he went back to the team that has been working, and somehow you could feel the cohesion was in there, because these are boys that have been playing together a few games, in a bunch of games. But first of all, congratulations to KCC, because it's not been good news. On their pages, you saw there was a bit of dullness, but I think this win will give them momentum going forward. It was a bit hard fought because of the playing surface. It was not the best, the weather still, but somehow they managed to grind a win. And that has been the case for them in the Uganda Cup, that they've managed to collect those wins in tough scenarios. We remember they played on a certain pitch whereby they had to first burn grass for them to play. Later on, they found themselves still somewhere on a pitch that had brown patches more than green. Not until they played a game at home whereby they humbled Renzori Lions. So this is another win that shows you that this is a team, and it gives you a reason as to why KCC are record champions in the Uganda Cup, having 10 titles of the Uganda Cup. So they still have a chance to at least give their fans glory, if at all they can manage to go all the way to the final and collect the 11th. But surely this is a win that for one, I was happy for them, because it's been dull in the camp.
Yeah, that equalizer for Karokarunji, if you consider again on the replay, Mustafa Mujuzi really slipping at the minute, and then sort of just teed up the ball for the striker to hammer into the back of the net. And in a game where I felt Mugolov had done so well in goal, but he totally had no chance. That is more like a spot kick. Totally had no chance. That's so unforgivable there for Mutasa Mujiz, who had also been very, very solid throughout the whole game. But I mean, the conditions allowing Karokarunji to pick up to get the leveler, but Usama Arafat later on, fortuitous enough, his shot taking a big deflection and going into goal. Frankly, in KCC, do you feel that they can go from this should inspire them? They are sort of like another team very many of us at Kawowo have. This looks like the only opportunity for them to pick up silverware in the season, which also allows them, the other team that we love qualifies for the Champions League. The cases for KCC, they'll get an opportunity of returning to the continent.
See, the good thing about knockout competitions is that what matters most is the result. And I think this campaign of the Uganda Cup, KCC has been very good at just getting the result, not the process. And in a competition like this, you want to believe there is a moment is always going to arrive when you're going to get lucky and get that goal in. Obviously, it was not the smoothest of games that we've known KCC to play. Edwin talked about the nature of the pitch. Of course, it's not the best for their kind of passing football that they like to play and all that. But for me, I think getting Ijara back into that midfield, I think it changed a little bit of the way they play, the way they build up from the back. And he was talking about how Magambo was not fit to be in the midfield, but to defend him a little bit in that bull game, you need a bit of physicality, and maybe that it was just fair to have him in that holding midfield role.
Those stories, it is the same as there is a coach who was at Vida who used to say that Kakande never plays physical games. Some of those stories are very
no. If you're going to play against a team that is going to knock you over, you know, that are not going to allow the time on the ball, you want to put in some physical bodies as well. But I think
that's a winner from
Usama Arafat.
Usama Arafat, I mean, big deflection before it went in. I think the keeper was wrong-footed. He couldn't come back in time. Of course, Kasim Chaze and the rest of the traveling fans for KCCA, given at the halftime, it was very difficult for them to return because the rains were heavy. But somehow, I think when the rain reduced, guys were able to come back and support the team.
The good news for KCC is, and KCC fans, is that they have gotten to the semi-finals. The bad news is that at that level now you're not going to have lower division teams you're facing your Premier League competition that have not had a good run against, at least this season.
I think they would take faith in what you've said, that this is a knockout competition. I don't need to play. I only need to get the result.
Yes.
I don't need to play, very good football. If I get my one goal, I can close shop and then and figure out where things will go. I'm interested to know where the final will be this year. Usually the Uganda Cup final moves around the country. I'll be interested to know where the final will be this year. But speaking about the other teams in the competition, still in the competition, Karo Karunji were the only non-Premier League team in the competition remaining.
There are two. Kataka is still Kataka is facing Police tomorrow.
Kataka facing Police. The big one, which has gotten people talking, was the one that happened in Hoima, when the defending champions Chitara hosted Bull. Chitara at home winning 1-0. Of course, there have been very many other talking points when we started the show talking about the sorcery and all, but take nothing away from the goal that was scored by Chitara to get them that win and keep them in the competition, and also give them an opportunity of defending their own championship. Chitara at home, and Kyle has spoken about it. They are proving to be. Is that the proper slaughterhouse, like some other team likes to own another person's house?
What council?
The host is enjoying himself. But surely,
that's my job.
Surely Chitara have made Royals Park quite a tough place to go to. And if you want any team to explain to you that KCC are the best side, that can tell you what happens to that pitch if at all those boys are in their best mode. Yesterday those are one of the games that you look at and you feel this is a team that is comfortable somewhere, because it is a win that was got from very hard scenarios. If you managed to watch that game, it was a game that was very close-ended, like either side you felt either side could match the other. A Bull hit the post, I think, twice.
The problem was that the branding at the back there looks like it has done its time. Needs some improvement from the people that be, but nonetheless, take nothing away from the football.
Yeah. So Chitara came into this game knowing that they had never won against Bull for the few times that they've met in the Uganda Premier League. So it was one of those games whereby you want to get the bad headline off your back and be like, okay, we've managed to get the first win against Bull. And in coach's words ahead of the game, he clearly said that we've come for only one assignment. We want to get our first win against Bull. And somewhere it came in a competition that they love, knowing that they don't have a chance to win the Uganda Premier League. You're going to give it your all in a competition like this, more so knowing that you're the defending champions. You know that if you keep going, you look to be a side that is going to fight for it and manage to defend it. Bull looked sharp in the aerial balls. They hit the woodwork twice. Karim Ndugwa, I think, as well as one of the forwards as well hit the woodwork. So they looked to be the side that would have gotten the goal earlier. But somehow, somewhere, Arthur Chigundu was the man to hit the ball into the back of the net. And by the way,
from a free kick.
Arthur Chigundu is one of the most trusted players by Waswa because he has moved around with him in a number of clubs.
Wherever he goes.
So, knowing that even currently he's not playing in his most comfortable position, he's a left back, but he's now playing as a centre back simply because Benjamin Nyakojo is on injury. So this can tell you how much a team is ready to fight and defend
spectacular save there
their
from
title.
Sima for Kitara, and for you, by the way, to beat one of the best goalkeepers in this country from that distance, Joel Mutakuwa, in that bull goal. It has to be something very, very special. Yeah. But again, you can see a very, very physical encounter between the two sides. I don't know, because Chikomeko, I think, and Wasabosa know each other very well. They set out their teams to just
but also
be very physical.
That is their kind of football. I think that's the kind of football they coach. I think they coach fitness first, and then everything else will fall in place with that. You know, it's always a game of 9 times where, you know, you have to fight for every ball, every 50-50 challenge. Yeah. You have to go all in, and that's their kind of, and it was the kind of football that you would expect in such a match.
Yeah, those are the matching orders given there to Titus Sematimba and forgetting the other name.
Jerome
Kiria. I mean, sort of the discipline from both teams. I think the coaches, that is something they'll need to work on. Very unnecessary in what could have been a very, very good game. But Franklin, do you think Kitara can go on and defend the Uganda Cup? They have some strong teams still in that competition that are interested. KCCA we've mentioned, but Vipers and AC Villa play later this evening. Yeah. And for Vipers, the motivation for them will be an opportunity of winning their second Salongo. Yeah. So there are still some very interested teams. You feel Kataka and Police, maybe they have an outside chance, but you certainly don't feel like they're the teams that can go on and win the championship. But there are still some strong title contenders in the Uganda Cup.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of experience, Kitara is a group of experienced players, and with a coach who has won the cup before, so it is not going to be, obviously it's not going to be easy to get over the hump. But if you're talking about chances of Kitara winning, of course they have a good chance of winning, of retaining it, but also that again depends on the draw that they get at the semi-finals.
Yeah, beautiful free kick there from
Atachigundu.
From Atachigundu. Sort of like the one that killed the other team that we like again. One chance, one shot, and then in the back of the net.
Knockout competition is done.
Those dead ball goals, very, very rare, and when they come off, they're always very, very beautiful. But that was enough to get Kitara through and excite their fans at home, even in front of their own fans. They're able to get the business done. Beautiful there, but I don't know what will happen to the other guys who showed of some sort of very poor play from them in discipline in the case, and you can see that the captain and I don't know what Chikomeko was coming to do actually as a coach. Why are you running away from your touchline to get involved in things that do not concern you?
I think you already knew what was going to happen. I think you already knew what was going to happen by looking at his captain do that. He knew what was coming. No, because when you know your captain is on a yellow card then he has thrown in that kind of challenge, you're almost certain of what is happening.
No, you're taking the gloss away from what was a good game first of all, and the game is on TV. Some of the things you would rather let them happen when there's no one watching. You're somewhere in the village.
They forget.
They forget that there are cameras
around.
No, it's very, very poor there from the coach himself, Chikomeko. But Kitara eventually getting ahead. We'll wait for the draws to find out if KCCA will survive. Another visit for KCCA to
the way the referee is getting up.
But Mwere plays some hostile football, some haram football. I think he's a defender who almost every game you're certain is going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
He's very clumsy, and at his challenges and tackling, you almost think every game.
And if you're that sort of character, sometimes you give the referees no choice but to
exactly
to always look out for you.
They get fond of you. I mean, this is the type of player that you are.
Yeah.
You can't turn from it.
Not a good reputation.
And every time you take the ball to Mwere, you know for sure.
Okay, quickly, let's speak about the other quarterfinal games. Kataka taking on Police. Kataka from Mumbale, Police, of course, in the big league. Both sides in the big league.
Police
But,
is in
I
the
mean, no,
league.
Police in the Premier League. I'm thinking about them of last season. But Police in the Premier League.
With a new manager.
They haven't had.
By the way, they are going to become our neighbors.
Yes, they are going to become. And I don't think I'll miss any game when they become our neighbors. But Police are taking on Kataka. Do you think Police are the favorites in that one?
Yeah, Police look to be.
Is the game at Kavumba or in Bale?
It's Kavumba. It's
Kavumba, yeah.
Police look to be the favorites in this game. They have a new coach in Matia Lule, who has been in charge of 2 games, and you feel 1 win, 1 draw. The draw came against Tabul. You feel they've looked decent. Of course, when you look at that,
Police want to carry on with this run, or they want to focus on keeping their place in the Premier League.
I think their place in the Premier League is kind of secure for
now,
sure. Except for now.
So Giants and Bright Stars not doing enough to push them.
no, but the closest to the relegation zone is Mbarara. Yeah. So when you look at UPL, they beat safe, but still, for them as Police, you want to win. You want to give a good account for each game that comes your way. Most knowing you have a new coach who was given a short-term basis, maybe knowing that if he does well, then he can be given a longer contract. So you want to take every game as an examination that you want to pass for your bosses to know that you're the right man for the job, but also for these players. The boss was quite tough, and they said they can literally change the whole team. They have the money to do that. So for players who want to keep at the club, you want to give every game your best, so that
for your position
so that you can keep your position next season. So it's going to be an interesting game. But on the side of Kataka, Amore is interested in those throw-ins from Namis because he literally
rolled it up.
Exactly. Because surely when you look at the equalizer that URA conceded, it came from that throw-in. That they looked not to be ready for that ball, because it went across the box and it fell on the back post, whereby the guy just tapped into an empty net. So surely that craft from that boy in Namisi, quite a young talent. He was recently at the under 20, that under 20 that didn't go all the way well. So surely this is a boy that I want to watch, and how I pray that they get those throw-ins close to the box. And I see how Police can handle themselves.
What do you want to see?
Yeah, Police taking on.
I want to see throw-ins from that boy.
Police taking on Kataka tomorrow at Kavumba, which will be the final quarter-final. But this evening there's a big one happening on Entebbe Road. Vipers hosting Sports Club Villa. Franklin, quickly, what are the chances of Villa destroying the team in form?
I think when it comes to game management, Lady Jaguars is probably one of the best. I mean, by game management, I mean big games. I think he always sets his team to stay in the game until the moment arrives. And obviously, with Kakande, you know, a moment of magic is always going to happen at any one time. When you look at how Charles Rwanga celebrated that goal against his former side, I mean, this is a guy who wants to score against Vipers, but it is not easy playing at Chitende, for sure. And this is a game that you think it's not going to be really high scoring, for sure. It's going to be a little bit tactical, and I'm hard pressed to think if anything, Vipers might edge it.
Yeah, Jonathan Kakande probably also playing for. Trying to audition for a move.
He already auditioned.
He doesn't need to audition
he
anymore.
Already auditioned.
For what happened at Wanguruku, that was enough.
If
you were the head of football,
to convince him. And someone was saying that if Alon Kelo departs, Jonathan Kakande is the perfect replacement for him. But we'll wait and see. The prediction from the two guys, Villa and Vipers and Mbale and Police, the two teams most likely to join both KCC and Chitara in the semi-finals of the Uganda Cup. But leaving the Uganda Cup alone, we'll move on quickly to the Lady Rugby Cranes, who did a fantastic job in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, winning all their 3 games to qualify for the Africa finals, where they will meet up with the big teams. And Franklin will give us the details. We watched a couple of the games here. I just never felt like Uganda was really challenged enough by Zimbabwe, Tunisia, and Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast, yes.
Yeah.
Uganda Ladies Rugby is at a place where I think the men were some time back. They are too strong for the lower division, but they are not strong enough for the top tier. They're somewhere in the middle. But what I want to talk about is the massive difference that the Sevens players brought to their team. You could see they were sorely missed in the previous outings for the Rugby Cranes. You're talking, I mean, right from almost the 8th man who at the 2 games they chose to play, Lydia Namibia of Black Pearls, and she's part of, obviously, of the 7 setup, and now from Namibia up to number 15. These are 7 girls who have been playing together for a while, and what is going to come out of them. But I think the biggest difference for Uganda was having Anne Fonsa as a number 12. Lekuru is always going to go through a wall. I mean, she's a big ball carrier, and she's playing the midfield. Little surprised that she scored the highest prize and she was named the MVP of the tournament. I think at this point, you would say the Rugby Cranes are near good to compete at the higher level, at the Africa Cup, because of the difference, the massive difference that the Sevens girls bring to the group. I also thought we were a little bit slow in getting the ball out of the breakdowns. I think Sarah Nakafel was a little bit slow at scrum half. But again, when Charles Onen was leaving Uganda for running, he said he wanted the girls to play forwards rugby first before they can go out. And obviously, when you're going to play that, you're going to play a slow ball. And that's why I think we did not say enough of Rachel Mfua or Grace Auma at the wing, trying to whatever to run around the defenses that were mostly in 6s and 7s for the opponents. And I thought, obviously, the opponents were a bit weak. As I stated earlier, I think we are too strong for the lower division, but we also not good enough
for the top flight. Was it a good decision not to go to Krakow and then try and focus on the 15s?
Yes, absolutely. I think right now the focus for 15s, for rugby, has to change from the 7s to the 15s, because the girls' 7s project had gone on for about 5 years or so. And I thought the peak was last season when they did not get into the final qualifying phase. I thought the peak had been achieved, and then it had to be some sort of rebuilding.
Recycled.
Yeah.
All right. Kudos to the Lady Rugby Cranes who qualify for the top division, where they'll meet some of the top dogs in Africa.
We're talking Kenya, South Africa,
Kenya, and
Madagascar.
And Madagascar will be waiting for them. But of course, they went to Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and got the business done. Money well spent. Always, most times when teams don't do well, you start to think,
and probably it was a sweet revenge against Tunisia, who had beaten them on the tour that they had the last, I think, 15th engagement for the side. And
our appreciation there to Rugby Afrique there for providing that live stream for us to be able to follow the games.
Not the best, but okay.
Yes, you could make out the bodies and you can see the ball getting over the line. So at least that's a start. That's a start.
Yeah.
So kudos to the Lady Rugby Cranes. In the same vein, I think we'll focus upon the Victoria Pearls, who were able to snatch a victory out of the jaws of defeat in that final game they were playing against Namibia. Uganda in that final game, I think Uganda had made up their minds that when it was 3 runs off 1 ball, we are going to run the 3. There is no opportunity for us to
hit the ball
to hit the ball for 4. So Rita Msamali and Marisa Riokot made up their minds to run the 3. Hopefully our producer can find that video, but it's very, very interesting. Comical in the end, but Uganda being able to nick it and level the series 3-3. that is a very good result for Uganda because it helps them most certainly maintain their 18th position, and that will mean that they might be among the top 18 countries in the world that will be taking part in the Women's Challenger Series that will be happening later in the year. But some big lessons that's the final ball where Uganda needed 3 runs, and it was somehow messed up by, you can see Uganda, they take off for the first one, and then Namibia, instead of holding on to the ball, the girl decided to throw the ball and she misses the stumps completely. That allowed Uganda to run the extra 2 runs and pick up the victory. But if she had just held the ball, Uganda would have lost by 2.
Exactly, and that's where the decision making comes in. I mean, from players having the game awareness. At what stage of the game are we at? Because ideally, if that player was aware that, look, Uganda needed 3 runs. If I held on to this ball, they are not going to run an extra.
Yeah,
exactly, and that was as obvious, the lack of game awareness.
I think she had done it, the ball just before that one. She had done it so perfectly, held on to the ball and effectively ran out.
Exactly.
But this time, I think she sort of got excited from she couldn't hit the stumps from where she was, and then Uganda was able to run the extra 2.
Yeah,
but from that tournament, Franklin, I mean, Uganda won the first 2, lost the next 3, and then came back in the end to pick up a win. But in the last 2 games, they were chasing down big totals.
Yes. And that is what I wanted to focus on. If Brian Masaba and Dewsum Holmes need to put anything in the minds of these girls, is they need to get used to batting strong, to approaching games as T20 games. You cannot be playing, as we call it, solid in a T20 game. So I think, one, those 2 games gave us the belief that, look, if it is batting, we can really bat and chase totals. Okay? So it is not a batting problem. It's a mindset problem, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
Because you're batting against a strong opponent, stronger than you, and better bowling opponents. Obviously, you can talk of the midfields that are obvious in many women's games, but as an approach to a T20 game, I thought those 2 games, the approach for T20 game was on point. Unlike the first 3 games, where they were very, very conservative with the batting. You cannot be playing T20 games relying on your bowling and fielding to save you up, especially in a team that gives away extras, that misses catches as much as that. Obviously, what has happened is that we're quite impressed with how Iluku, Deus and Masaba need to find a way of polishing that girl. She has raw energy, but in terms of skill, slacking. And when you're playing against, smart bowlers, she's always going to get out quite easy. But she has the energy that you, as a coach, you can work around with to get skills to be able to put the ball and try out a few shots here and there. I think we are over-relying on our middle order, and that is not a good thing for sure. When you have the first 4 going for under 30, that is not good enough. You want Janet, Kevin, even what's her name? The Rasta, Ime, yes. Yeah. Ime, who was promoted up. You want those guys to be scoring runs, but if they are not scoring, then there is a lot of work for Pina, for Rita to do the cleaning up. You cannot always leave the cleaning up for your middle order.
And the challenge for them as well, they don't have a strong lower end that can score runs. It's packed with a lot of bowlers whose contributions. That's why I think we've lost the 5th game, because we virtually failed to score 1 run off 2 balls. So I think if they can pack their runs in the top order and the mid order, so that there is little or no work to do for the guys at the back end.
I always remember the question. One of the male cricketers said, "Batuleke over the natus because they say
the guys at the back end."
The guys at the back end, and that's the kind of, I think, approach that that Deus and Brian need to take up and try to put in the heads of these girls that, look, a T20 game, you cannot be conservative. It is just as simple as that.
Yeah, the intensity of the girls just really needs to improve, and when they were able to match Namibia's intensity in those last 2 games, you saw. I think they just had extra belief in themselves. It really helped them to push Namibia to the wall. I think Namibia was also surprised that Uganda is trying to chase 140 runs.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, because that is a total in a women's game. It doesn't matter at what level, where you be a little bit comfortable.
Yeah.
130, 140, you be comfortable a bit.
Yeah, but good series for them, and the Victoria Powers back home. But their next assignment should be the Kwibuka Cup, where they are defending champions in June in Kigali. But leaving the cricket and finally finishing with the basketball, JT Jaguars, their fair tale ending over on Friday against KCCA. Surprised, Kyle, or you saw this coming?
Surely surprised. I can't say I saw it coming. Surely surprised. I happened to talk to Margaret after the game, who was quite on full form that day, posting a double, because I had never seen her, first of all, in fighting that much in a game, to see that her team crosses the line. But on that day, surely all the KCC Leopards players that were given a chance, you saw they had a belief. They had a certain kind of belief, and that's what I was trying to find out. What was the cause of a belief? And I was
185k.
I not really. This time around, it was even beyond that. I was told a story that the fight of words or exchange of words happened to start from a certain netball court, whereby players on the other side were literally telling KCC Leopards that you guys are a bit older than us, so we are going to run you down. You're going to feel the heat because we're a bit younger and the fitness. So surely that is going to be up. So players came onto ground with a reason to fight more. They wanted to prove a point to these jetty Lady Jaguars girls that, hey, we might be older, but we still have it in our hands and we can do a bit of good basketball. And that is a game that was surely fitting for Friday, because Friday you want a game that is close-ended, unlike the men's game that should be put on Wednesday or Monday. The girls gave us quite a tight game, and in the last play of the game, JT Jaguars needed 4 points, and Sarah Geno pulled off a long shot beyond an arc, pulling the margin just to 1, and somewhere JT Lady Jaguars painfully traded by 1. And for me, I think this is a wake-up point for JT. They had gone 4 games winning a bit comfortably, apart from that opener whereby they had to put in a lot of work to go past the JKL Lady Dolphins. But they should know, you might be winning games, yes, but the work has to keep going on. You never get in a comfortable place to just put off words recklessly like Mbalangu. I'm going to beat that man. I'm going to beat that man. And before you know, you are humbled in the first half. This is what happened to the JT. They were not humbled in the soul, but they lost the game to a team which I think they would have beaten on any other day. Yeah,
JT Jaguars brought down to earth, frankly.
In that game, I thought one of the things that from the way JT Jaguars were playing is that they're at a point where they think they can win any game, and even when they went 12 points down, they still looked so comfortable, so casual, that they had the game within reach, and that was not the approach from the KCCA Leopards. I thought at some point the wins had, I think, gotten into the minds of the JT Jaguars, and obviously they were cutting the lead down to 5-7, and they thought it was a game that was within reach. But being cocky sometimes doesn't always work. Okay, and as Edwin says, it was a wake-up call. I thought Roger Seunyego, the head coach of KCC, had his strategy, his pre-game routine on his scouting on point. I thought he did not allow JT Jaguars to run the offense that they usually do run, but also on the other end, he forced them into very many uncomfortable positions, because when you have Maggie Bagala, you have his friend Tracy Namugosa.
He's from dropping 22 points to the morning.
With you and Ninette Uwineza now. The way those three guards play is that you're going to use one of them as a small forward, and that happened to be Maggie Bagala. And we without due respect, most teams until I think this season, when they were doing scouting, I don't think Maggie Bagala is a player who you're going to scout for or scout against, because her scoring is not, if I may call it, systematic. Again, not watch, but on that day, she's a player who is going to explode on any given day, and she's the one who took matters into her own hands that day, especially down the stretch. And her production was very, very important. That every time Lady Jaguars came within, she hit a big shot that stretched the lead. And obviously, it was only rewarding that the Avera assistant executive director made it rain in the locker room.
It's the executive director of KCC.
Yes.
And by the way, just a reminder that we have all the National Basketball League action on Kawowo Sports. So be sure, if you're wondering where you can catch your favorite team, just go to Kawowo Sports YouTube channel and subscribe. You won't miss any of the action from the National Basketball League. But Franklin, just to finish up, the Blazers remain unbeaten, beating up on the KCCA Panthers. Is it starting to look like they are gaining momentum, or they are looking like the championship team?
In the words of Edwin, I'm not convinced. But at least what there is that there is harmony within the group. They play for each other. Three, they know how to run their offense. There's a bit of being fluid in running their offense. When they choose that we are running a fast offense, they are going to go fast. When it is time to manage the game and rest a little bit, they are going to play slow. And they manage those phases so well. And that is
probably that's the experience of the wise heads.
Exactly. Those three heads are bringing a lot. And look, when you have Tony Drieba coming off the bench, and it is Joel Banza starting, the two best point guards from currently in the league, probably outside of Fayed Bali, it is going to be hard for any opponent to come and look. I mean, they are taking out Joe Lukoji and they are bringing on Tony Drieba. What are you going to do? They are moving from gear 1 to gear 2. And then, but that is a substitution. It is always going to be hard. These are very smart players, experienced, and they know how to run their offense and direct their offense. And you have Paul Odon coming off the bench. You have it's a whole bunch of guys who are really experienced. And if you choose to do what KCA tried to do of running them on the court, it's going to be very hard for you, because that is what they have been playing the entire time.
The Blazers.
But Dennis, for me, sometimes it goes back to running plays, but for me, it also comes back to the leadership on that team. For those that have seen Namuongo for quite time, I think sometimes the noise would get into their heads, and there are games that they would lead, and then all of a sudden you find them looking a bit comfortable, and then taking the foot off the gas, which is not something that we've seen so much this season. You feel there is a kind of leadership in this team that keeps telling them we are first concluding the game. And when you look at their bench, there's also the vocal that vocal leadership that keeps rolling into these boys, which has been added into, maybe because of these new teams, but also I think they don't want to get excited because of the wins that they've got. And if this goes on, it's going to be like an animal getting better and better. And surely teams have to work a lot if at all they want to end this winning streak of Blazers. I'm not yet convinced.
Is basketball desperate for a new champion?
Surely.
They have been for the last, 5 years?
Those are the thoughts of Franklin Kawere and Edwin Kaikule. Our time is fast spent, but when we come back next week, we shall know the teams that are in the semi-finals of the Uganda Cup competition, and then we'll also know how far the championship race has gone when the Uganda Premier League returns. But don't forget, you can catch all the action of the National Basketball League on Kawowo Sports. So go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you will surely get you'll be able to watch the games whenever they happen. But I've had Franklin Kawere, the editor at Kawowo Sports, Edwin Kakule, a writer with Kawowo Sports, and I've been your weekly host, Dennis Musali. Make sure you always keep it Kawowo Sports, keep reading all those stories, and we'll see you again next time.
Host aganyo kogere ekitiibwa kye oli muwandiisi and bossman at UCL.